Chicano folk singer is dead after she was attacked by a pair of coyotes.
What is the monkey doing? Tell me what the monkey...
He hit your face off!
We actually have a trainer in the water with one of our whales.
If I show weakness, if I retreat, I may be hurt, I may be killed.
Baby Azaria Chamberlain was taken by a dingo back in 1980.
Welcome back to Man-Eaters, ladies and gentlemen, the only true crime podcast on the entire goddamn internet where all the killers are real animals, whether it's biting, scratchings, maulings, or clawings. We're here to talk about it. I'm your host, as always, Jimbalaya, aka Jim Bass, aka the boy next door. And kicking off today's episode, a little bit of an update for you. That's right. The saga of the weed fiend downstairs continues. As you may have heard on the latest episode of the show, I had to close up all my windows because the neighbors downstairs, by all intents and purposes, I've had very little to do with them, but the little interactions I've had, they seem like nice people. But my goodness, do they enjoy blazing a bluntie. Is that how you say it? I'm not really much of a weed guy. But good God, they're getting toasted so often. And I had to close up my windows and it's really hot. And today I came home from a massage. I get a massage every couple of weeks because my upper back is a nightmare. It's an absolute quagmire. But I came home and the second I walk through the door, I'm pelted in the face by this... I don't even know how you describe the smell of weed. It's just like this sour smell of marijuana, and I realize I've left the windows open, which I should be allowed to do. You know, it's my house, it's hot. But my cat, guys, you're very well aware of the cat. You know Birdie. So Birdie is the little cat that lives with us. I guess you could call it a pet, and she and I have had a tumultuous relationship in the past. She's attacked me quite a lot. And we put her on some kind of tranquilizers, I guess, to calm her down. And that's done the trick, and she's lovely. And she just spent the last half hour on my lap. But I came home, and I don't know what a healthy amount of secondhand marijuana smoke is for a cat. But I think that Birdie got right to the line of where that is, because she was fucking loopy. She was bonking into walls. And she's been super hungry. So my cat has the munchies is the takeaway here. So anyway, that's just a little update everyone wants to hear. I don't know if I should say this. No, actually, you know what? I'm not going to say this. I'll save it for later. Maybe on the Patreon. Okay, never mind. Scratch that. Maybe delete it from the edit. I don't know. But today, we are talking about a story that we've wanted to talk about for a while. Actually, one of the suggested topics in one of the Spotify comments that we read through in the last episode, someone said, would you ever do an episode on the killing of Cecil the lion? And today, my friends and my enemies, this is what we're doing. We are going to be covering the death of Cecil the lion, a big story back in 2015, a decade ago, like a decade almost to the month. This was July in 2015, and we are recording this in February, so nearly 10 years ago. But yeah, this was a huge story. It blew up and went absolutely viral. It's probably one of the biggest animal stories of the decade. So we're going to talk about it. So, folks, light a bowl of your favorite icky sticky, and let's get into it. This is episode 122, I think, the killing of Cecil the lion.
For a tourist on safari, this is the dream shot. A close-up encounter with one of the Big Five. That's a term coined by big game hunters for the 5 most dangerous African animals to hunt on foot. And that's exactly what happened to this lion.
We lost one of the icons.
Cecil, with his distinctive dark mane, was a star. The best-known animal in Hwenge National Park. Officials say earlier this month, Cecil was lured out of the protected park with bait. Then he was shot. First with an arrow, then 40 hours later, finished off with a gun by a tourist who paid $55,000 to local guides.
The person involved or the offender is a gentleman who is an American called Walter James Palmer.
Palmer, a Minnesota dentist who's a star of his own in the world of bow hunting. He's traveled the world to bag a zoo's worth of animals, from leopards to rhinos, but not always legally. In 2008, he was sentenced to a year of probation for making a false statement to wildlife officials after killing a black bear. In a statement today, Palmer said he was sorry he'd shot Cecil. I had no idea that the lion I took was a known local favorite, was collared and part of a study until the end of the hunt. I relied on the expertise of my local professional guides to ensure a legal hunt. Around the world, outrage over Cecil's death is growing. An online mob lit their torches, took to Twitter, and crashed the dentist's website. Some angry Minnesotans even turned up at the dentist's office and home, but he wasn't there.
It upsets me that people can be so stupid to take a life like that, whether it's human or not.
The thing is, shooting lions is legal in Zimbabwe if you have the right permit. But according to researchers, of the 34 tagged lions that died over the last decade and a half, 24 were shot by sport hunters. The 2 Zimbabweans who helped bag Cecil will be charged with poaching. Authorities say Cecil's skin will be used as evidence. His head still hasn't been found.
In July 2015, a lion was lured out of the protected Hwange National Park in Zimbabwe, shot with a bow and arrow, and left to suffer for hours before he was finally killed. His name was Cecil, and his death sparked international outrage. It wasn't just the brutality of the killing that made headlines, it was who killed him, why he did it, and what it revealed about the dark world of trophy hunting. But nearly a decade later, what actually has changed? Did Cecil's death mean anything in the long run, or was it just another viral outrage that faded into memory? Today, we're diving into the story behind the headlines, the hunter, the hunted, and the complicated legacy of Cecil the lion. Cecil was named after Cecil Rhodes, a British businessman, politician, and mining magnate who was also the namesake of Rhodesia, now known as Zimbabwe. Another lion, assumed to be Cecil's brother, was spotted in Hwange National Park in 2008. During 2009, the 2 lions encountered an established pride, resulting in a fight in which Cecil's brother was killed and both Cecil and the pride leader were seriously injured. The previous leader was then mercy killed by park rangers due to wounds sustained during the fight with Cecil. Cecil retreated to another part of the park, where he finally formed his own pride with up to 22 members. In 2013, 2 young male lions forced Cecil out of the region and onto the park's eastern border. There, he formed a coalition with another male lion named Jericho to form 2 prides consisting of Cecil, Jericho, half a dozen females, and up to a dozen children sired by either Cecil or Jericho. Scientists from the Wildlife Conservation Research Unit at the University of Oxford had been studying the park's lions, including Cecil, as part of a research experiment that began in 1999, and his activities have been tracked all the way to 2008. 34 of the 62 lions tagged during the study period had died, including 24 due to sport hunting. Of the adult male lions tagged inside the park, 72 were killed during sport hunting in the surrounding areas. In 2013, 49 hunted lion carcasses were transported from Zimbabwe as trophies. From 2005 to 2008, the Zimbabwe hunt offtake, which means licensed killings, averaged about 42 lions per year. The African Wildlife Foundation discovered that the African lion population had plummeted by 43% between 1997 and 2017. The African lion is now classified as a vulnerable species, with humans serving as its sole predator. Cecil was the primary attraction of Hwange National Park, distinguished by his black fringed mane and GPS tracking collar. One of the project's researchers had said that Cecil had become so popular because he was used to people, enabling vehicles to go as close as 10 meters away, making it easier for visitors and researchers to photograph and observe him. However, according to Alex Magasia, an assistant to the Zimbabwean Prime Minister, Cecil was only known to a subset of the population. Other sources stated that 99.99% of Zimbabweans had never even heard of Cecil. So, let's get into what happened to Cecil. On June 15th, Walter J. Palmer, an American dentist and recreational game hunter, reportedly paid $50,000 to Theo Bronkhorst, a Zimbabwean professional hunter guide, to help him kill a lion. On the late afternoon of July 1st, Bronkhorst and wildlife tracker Cornelius Nkumbe constructed a hunting blind at Antoinette Farm, a private property owned by Honest Nvaldu just across a railway track from the park. Between 9 and 11 p.m., Palmer shot Cecil with an arrow from his compound bow whilst hiding. The hunters tracked the injured lion and finally killed him with a second arrow the following morning, which was approximately 10 to 12 hours later, at a distance of less than 250 meters. Cecil's body was skinned and his head was removed. When park authorities discovered the lion's headless skeleton, which had already been picked clean by vultures, his tracking collar was also missing, and he had been dumped several kilometers away. The hunt occurred outside the protected Hwange National Park, but within the lion's typical home range. Biologist Andrew Loveridge claimed that Palmer's companions, Bronkhorst and Nkumbe, carried the carcass of an African elephant killed earlier in the week around 300 meters from the park to lure Cecil out. The lion was connected with a satellite tracking device that captured location data every 2 hours. The position data was then stitched together. This was the interpretation of events that was supported by a subsequent examination by Zimbabwe National Parks and Wildlife Management, and it is compatible with the satellite data. The two Zimbabweans were later arrested by the police. Bronkhorst stated in July 2015, "We had obtained the permit for bow hunting and the permit for the lion from the council." By this point, Palmer had already returned to the United States, where he issued a statement saying he had relied on the expertise of my local professional guide to ensure a legal hunt, and, quote, "I deeply regret that my pursuit of an activity that I love and practice responsibly and legally resulted in the taking of this lion." The killing of Cecil the lion in July 2015 set off a firestorm of outrage that extended far beyond the Zimbabwean borders, rippling across the world in a way that few wildlife controversies ever had. What might have otherwise been just another case of trophy hunting quickly escalated into an international scandal, fueled by the fact that Cecil was no ordinary lion. He was a well-known and heavily studied animal, beloved by researchers, conservationists, and tourists alike. His death, especially the brutal way in which he was killed, became a flashpoint for the global debate on the ethics of hunting, conservation, and the exploitation of Africa's wildlife by wealthy foreign hunters. Now, within Zimbabwe, reactions were complex and in some cases conflicted. Conservationists and park officials were appalled, particularly because Cecil had been a major attraction for Hwange National Park, drawing tourists from around the world. His loss was therefore more than just an emotional blow, it had real economic implications for the local tourism industry, which relied on iconic animals such as him to attract visitors. Zimbabwean authorities launched an immediate investigation, as Cecil's GPS collar, a crucial part of an ongoing Oxford University research study, had remained intact and led to the discovery of his body. The government initially suggested it might press charges against Walter Palmer, the American dentist who had killed Cecil. They also arrested the two Zimbabwean men who had assisted the hunt, professional hunter Theo Bronkhorst and landowner Honest Nvaldu. Both men faced legal scrutiny for their roles in illegally luring Cecil out of the protected area, although their cases were eventually collapsed in court. However, among some Zimbabwean citizens, particularly those living in rural areas near the park, there was a certain degree of frustration with the international reaction. Many questioned why the world was suddenly so outraged over the death of one lion, when Zimbabwe faced larger, more pressing issues such as poverty, political instability, and a poaching crisis that killed countless other animals each year. Some critics even pointed out that wealthy Western nations seemed more moved by the killing of a single lion than by the struggles of Zimbabwe's poor population. Global outrage and backlash against Walter Palmer internationally, the reaction was swift and overwhelmingly furious. Social media played a massive role in amplifying the outrage, with the hashtag Cecil the Lion trending worldwide within hours of the story breaking. The fact that Palmer had killed Cecil in such a drawn-out and gruesome manner, wounding him with a bow and arrow only to let him suffer for hours before finishing the job, had added to public anger. Palmer, a dentist from Minnesota, quickly became the target of global condemnation. His social media posts were flooded with hate messages, and animal rights activists called for him to be extradited to Zimbabwe to face charges. Protesters gathered outside his dental practice, forcing him to temporarily close his office and go into hiding. His name and face were plastered across news outlets, with many questioning how someone could pay tens of thousands of dollars to kill a majestic, endangered animal purely for sport. Prominent celebrities and public figures joined in the backlash. British comedian Ricky Gervais, a vocal advocate for animal rights, tweeted angrily about the incident, calling Palmer a killer dentist and questioning the morality of trophy hunting. Talk show host Jimmy Kimmel gave an emotional monologue about Cecil on his late-night show, tearing up as he condemned the killing and encouraged people to donate to Oxford's Wildlife Conservation Research Unit, which had been studying Cecil. His appeal led to an outpouring of donations, with the research unit receiving over $150,000 within the next few days. Even some politicians weighed in on it. In the US, Senator Bob Menendez introduced the Cecil Act, which stands for Conserving Ecosystems by Ceasing the Importation of Large Animal Trophies Act, which aimed to make it harder for Americans to import hunting trophies from species considered threatened or endangered. Though the act ultimately did not pass, it did demonstrate how Cecil's death had become a symbol for broader policy discussions around wildlife conservation. Now, while much of the world condemned the killing, there was also those who defended Palmer and the practice of trophy hunting. Before we get into this, let's talk about what trophy hunting actually is, because even though I've heard of it many times, and I feel like I have a general understanding of what it is, if you were to question me on the specifics of what trophy hunting is, I probably couldn't tell you the ins and outs. So let's take a moment to talk about how trophy hunting in Africa actually works. So, trophy hunting in Africa is a legal, highly structured industry that involves wealthy hunters, often from the US or Europe, paying large sums of money to hunt wild animals. And while it remains one of the most controversial conservation strategies, proponents argue that when properly regulated, it can provide funding for conservation efforts and local communities. Critics, however, see it as an unethical practice that threatens the already vulnerable wildlife populations. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my opinion on trophy hunting at the end of this. But for now, let's talk about some of the basics of trophy hunting. So, trophy hunting typically involves a licensed hunt where hunters pay for the opportunity to kill a specific animal, often one of the big 5 species. We've talked about this on the show before, but that is a lion, an elephant, a leopard, a buffalo, and the rhinoceros. The term trophy refers to the preserved body parts such as skins, skulls, and mounted heads that hunters take home as souvenirs. Unlike poaching, which is illegal and done without regulation, trophy hunting is legally sanctioned by governments and wildlife authorities. It is regulated through quotas, permits, and strict guidelines designed to ensure that only certain animals are hunted. Most trophy hunters come from wealthy Western nations like the United States, Canada, Germany, Spain, and the United Kingdom. And these hunters often pay between $10,000 and $100,000 per expedition, depending on the species and location. The most sought-after species, such as lions and elephants, tend to command the highest prices. Hunters often argue that they are drawn to the challenge, the tradition, and the sport of hunting. Some also believe they are contributing to conservation by funding wildlife protection programs through their fees. However, many critics view trophy hunting as a purely selfish activity that exploits endangered species for personal gain. So, how does this process work? Well, step 1 is selecting the hunt and paying for the fee. Hunters book their trips through professional hunting outfitters, many of whom operate in South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, and Botswana. These outfitters work with landowners or government agencies to obtain the necessary permits. Each species has a different price tag, with the most expensive hunts including lions, which can range between $30,000 and $50,000, elephants between $40,000 and $70,000, leopards between $25,000 and $40,000, and rhinoceroses can go for over $100,000 for rare subspecies. This price typically includes accommodation, guides, and the hunting experience itself. Step 2. Tracking and killing the animal. Once in the field, professional guides, often called PHs, lead the hunters to designated areas where the animals can be legally hunted. Depending on the species, hunts may take place on private game reserves where animals are bred and controlled, government-managed hunting concessions, which are large wildlife areas with specific quotas, communal conservations where local communities allow hunting for revenue. The method of killing does vary. Some hunters use rifles while others prefer more traditional methods such as bows and arrows. In most cases, the goal is to make a clean kill, but in reality, animals are sometimes wounded and suffer for hours before finishing off. Case in point, Cecil the lion. Step 3. Harvesting the trophy. After the animal is killed, its head, skin, and other body parts are preserved and prepared for taxidermy. The remains may be shipped internationally depending on the hunter's home country import laws. For example, I'm pretty sure Australia would have very strict laws because you can't even get a fucking chocolate bar in this country. Number 4, government fees and conservation contributions. A portion of the hunting fee is supposed to go towards conservation efforts, anti-poaching initiatives, and local communities. In theory, these funds help sustain wildlife populations by protecting habitats and deterring illegal poaching. However, in some cases, corruption and mismanagement means the money never reaches its intended targets. Proponents of trophy hunting argue that it generates crucial revenue for conservation and rural communities. In many African countries, national parks and conservation agencies are underfunded, and controlled hunting brings in revenue that can be used for wildlife management, anti-poaching patrols, and habitat restoration. According to some estimates, 40 to 60% of hunting fees go to government agencies, 20 to 30% goes to local communities supporting schools, infrastructure, and employment, and 10 to 20% can go to hunting outfitters and landowners. However, critics argue that much of the money is lost due to corruption, poor oversight, and a lack of reinvestment into the conservation efforts. Studies have shown that in some countries, only a fraction of the hunting revenue actually benefits local people or wildlife. So now that we have a clearer understanding of what the process of trophy hunting is, let's talk about the response from the killing of Cecil the lion from the hunting community. So while much of the world was condemning the dentist and the killing, there were also those who defended Palmer and the practice of trophy hunting. Some hunters argued that regulated hunting contributes to conservation efforts by generating revenue for national parks. They claimed that Palmer had paid a large sum for a legal hunt, and the blame should fall on Zimbabwean guides and landowners who had lured Cecil out of the park. Organizations such as Safari Club International, a major pro-hunting group, initially stood by Palmer, but later distanced themselves as public outrage grew. They revoked the membership of both Palmer and Theo Bronkhorst, indicating that they viewed the hunt as unethical, even if not technically illegal. At the same time, African hunting advocates pointed out that economic realities of conservation. Some conservationists and rural communities that benefited from legal hunting income feared that the backlash against Cecil's killing would lead to a blanket ban on trophy hunting, potentially cutting off a significant source of funding for conservation programs. In countries like Zimbabwe and Namibia, where controlled hunting has been used as a means of wildlife management, officials worried that the uproar would reduce funding for anti-poaching efforts, as hunters typically pay hefty fees that help sustain local conservation initiatives. Cecil's death did lead to a wave of policy shifts in corporate decisions, particularly in the transportation industry. In response to the public outcry, major airlines including Delta, United, and American Airlines announced bans on transporting big game hunting trophies. Several European airlines followed suit, making it more difficult for hunters to bring back lion skins, elephant tusks, and other trophies. Some countries also reviewed their hunting policies. The US Fish and Wildlife Service added lions in certain regions to the Endangered Species Act, which imposed stricter regulations on trophy imports. The European Union also began scrutinizing hunting permits more closely, adding new restrictions on the importation of lion trophies. However, despite the initial surge of activism, trophy hunting remains legal in many parts of Africa. While Cecil's death did raise awareness about the threats lions face, hunting continues to be a controversial and heavily debated conservation strategy. Some experts argue that without the alternative funding sources, banning hunting outright could do more harm than good, as it might reduce the financial incentives for landowners to maintain habitats for the wildlife. So let's talk about the emotional and cultural legacy of Cecil. Even years after his death, even 10 years after his death, Cecil has remained a powerful symbol of wildlife conservation. His story has been the subject of books, documentaries, and countless articles examining the ethics of trophy hunting and the broader challenges protecting Africa's lions. Conservation groups continue to use his name to rally support for stronger protections against hunting and poaching, and his image still invokes discussions about the future of endangered species. For many people, Cecil was not just a lion. He represented the growing tension between human activity and wildlife preservation. His killing forced the world to confront some unforgettable questions. Should wealthy foreigners be allowed to hunt endangered species for sport? Can conservation efforts truly coexist with trophy hunting? And what responsibility do governments, corporations, and individuals have in protecting the planet's most vulnerable creatures? While the international outrage has largely faded over time, Cecil's story still remains a haunting reminder of how one act can spark a global reckoning, and how difficult it is to find solutions that satisfy both ethical concerns and conservation needs. In recent years, public pressure has led to stricter regulations and bans on trophy hunting in certain countries. Botswana, for example, banned all trophy hunting in 2014, although this was later reinstated in 2019 due to pressure from local communities. Many airlines, including Delta, United and British Airways, have continued to make it harder for hunters to bring home their kills. At the same time, conservationists continue to debate whether banning trophy hunting entirely is a viable solution. Some argue that alternative revenue sources such as ecotourism and photographic safaris could replace hunting revenue without harming wildlife. Others warn that without hunting income, some conservation areas might struggle to survive, leading to increased poaching and habitat destruction. Ultimately, the future of trophy hunting in Africa remains uncertain. While Cecil the lion's killing brought global attention to the issue, the fundamental tensions between conservation, economics, and ethics remain unsolved. Whether trophy hunting is truly a tool for conservation or just a way for wealthy people to exploit Africa's wildlife, it's still one of the most contentious debates in modern conservation. And that's it, guys. That's pretty much all there is to know about Cecil the lion and trophy hunting in Africa. Now, as to my opinion on the sport of trophy hunting, I am personally against it. I understand the argument that it brings in, crucial funding, but I also think that that's just a smokescreen. And that's an excuse, really. It's an excuse that wealthy people get to throw out there. Like, I paid $50,000 for this hunt. $50,000 goes to the protection of all the other animals. If that's really what their intention was, they could just donate the $50,000. You could just donate the money to the conservation. You know what you could do? You could spend the $50,000. You could fly to Africa. You could stay in the hotel. You could have the guides lure the animals out. And you could even hold the rifle up and look through the scope. All you have to do differently is not shoot it. Or, what you could do? You could shoot it with a tranquilizer and watch it pass out. Take a photo with the sleepy animal. And just, that's it. Leave it at that point, So I've had conversations with hunters in the past. And I don't have a problem with hunting when it's for food. Or really even for, like, sport, I guess. If you're hunting, like, animals like birds or pigs or stuff, I guess sure. I feel it makes me feel a little bit more uncomfortable about that, but I guess depending on the situation, that's okay. But trophy hunting is just there are not that many of these animals left, guys. They're already particularly vulnerable. So I guess I just don't get the mindset of looking at a majestic creature like a lion or an elephant and thinking, yeah, I want to fucking kill that and chop its head off. I just think that makes you a psycho. And if that offends you, whatever, like, that's fine. That's just my opinion. I cannot get in the mindset of someone who can see an animal like that and be like, yeah, that'd look good on my den wall. Take a photograph, you fucking moron. Anyway, that's the story of Cecil the lion. I hope you learned a little bit about that story, and I hope we all learned a little bit about trophy hunting. It is a contentious debate. Oh, absolutely, and I don't know if it can ever be... I don't know if those two things can go hand in hand, if conservation and hunting can ever really be hand in hand. But, that is for smarter people than me to discuss. Going to take a break now, everyone, and we're going to come back in a little bit with our Scratch of the Day segment. This is the time where you can go and do a wee. It's a wee break, everyone. Make sure you aim in the bowl. And we're back. Did you aim properly? You peed on the floor again, didn't you? I don't know. Tell you what, can I admit something really fucked up, guys? There is a little bit of me that, like, if I'm in a bathroom and it's already like a shitty bathroom, like it's already disgusting. If I dribble a little bit, I don't have a problem with that. If it's already festy and I just contribute a little bit, does that make me a bad person? Someone's gonna have to clean it up already. And there's literally shit smeared on the wall. Surely my little piss dribble can't be that bad. Okay, right. I think I probably shouldn't say that out loud ever again. We're on to our Scratch of the Day now. Scratch of the Day. Scratch of the Day, the segment where we look at the news, all the animal attacks in the news, and we talk about them. Rhiannon has actually sent through a couple stories she would like us to cover, and so we're going to do that now, followed by 3 other ones. So this first one, this is fucked. A woman has lost both of her hands after trying to protect herself from a shark attack. From a second shark attack. It says she can only be described as a nightmare. This was reported a couple of weeks ago, because I haven't done a new episode for 2 weeks, but this was published on February 18th, so let's read through this. The tourist who had both of her hands bitten off by a shark in Turks and Caicos had put them up to try to protect herself as the shark came at her a second time after biting her in the thigh, her family said, calling it something that can only be described as a nightmare. The 55-year-old Canadian was swimming off Providenciales? How do you say that? Providenciales, I don't know, the main island in the Caribbean archipelago, in just hip-deep water on February 7th when the 7-foot bull shark attacked, her brother-in-law, Al Shavari, detailed in an online fundraiser seeking to cover medical costs. After bumping into her leg in the shallows, the shark circled around and sank its jaws into her thigh, he wrote in both English and French of his brother's... What? Chavari wrote in both English and French of his brother's wife, whom he did not otherwise identify. That is so poorly written. Whatever. Not satisfied, the shark came back again, and when she put both hands in front of her to protect herself, the shark cut off both of her hands, one at the mid-forearm and the other at the wrist, he continued. The woman's husband, a 30-year-old veteran of the Canadian Armed Forces, jumped into the water to help her and managed to wrestle the shark away and stayed between her and the shark until she walked out of the water and collapsed on the beach. The relatives' victims did not indicate whether she had been trying to take a photograph of the giant fish, as claimed by the Department of Environmental and Coast Resources. Disturbing photos from the scene show panicked bystanders... Oh, God. Sorry, I just saw a photo. Disturbing photos from the scene show a panicked bystanders in swimwear surrounding the woman as she lay in pain on the sand, attempting to hold cloths over her wrists to curb the bleeding. She was rushed to a local hospital on the island for initial treatment, but was flown back to Canada for additional surgeries and treatment, said Chavari, who is from Quebec. Quote, while on what was supposed to be a relaxing vacation, my sister-in-law and her husband, my brother, lived what can only be described as a nightmare, he said. His brother and sister-in-law's lives have been completely altered in the blink of an eye, he said. Thompson's Cove Beach was shut down but reopened on the February 9th. On the same day, 2 American tourists were attacked by a shark in the Bahamas. Shark attacks are relatively rare off the coast of Turks and Caicos, with only one, I think they say Caicos, Turks and Caicos, with only one unprovoked shark attack confirmed last year, according to the University of Florida's International Shark Attack File, which tracks such data. However, in 2023, a 22-year-old Connecticut woman had her leg bitten off by a shark while snorkeling in a resort near Provençales Island. There you go. The next story we're going to talk about is a zookeeper has been eaten by lions. This story is fucking nuts. An Uzbekistani zookeeper has filmed himself getting eaten alive by lions after he entered a cage to impress his girlfriend. A disturbing video has captured the moment a zookeeper entered a lion's cage in an attempt to impress his girlfriend and was fatally attacked by the animals. The guard, identified as 44-year-old F. Iriskinlov, filmed himself approaching the lion's cage prior to being mauled, unintentionally capturing the last moments on camera. The incident took place at approximately 5 a.m. on December 17th during his night shift in a private zoo in Parkent, Uzbekistan. The video captures Iriskulov, that's how you say them, Iriskulov opening a padlock on the enclosure before making his way inside. Initially, the three giant cats sit calmly in the far corner of the enclosure, but take the man by surprise as one of the lions leap to life before they approach him. He repeatedly mentions one of the names, Simba, before ordering the animals to keep quiet. Despite being surrounded by lions, he confidently flips the camera to reveal his face as if he were recording a video to send to his fiancée. When one of the animals approaches him, the keeper strokes it, indicating that they are acquainted. However, the lion licks its lips as soon as he touches the animal's mane, and the man briefly turns to face the metal gate. The footage then takes a terrifying turn with one of the lions attacking the unsuspecting keeper. With his camera still going, he can be heard screaming loudly as the creatures overwhelm him. The video cuts to black, but the eerie sound of his screams reverberates as he keeps pleading, "Be quiet, be quiet." The video is graphic in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. We're going to watch that now. Okay, he's taking the padlock off, and he's putting it very gently on the floor. Ooh. This is like not a nice place for the lions to live. This is just concrete. Haven't seen the lions yet, though. Oh, there they are. They've blurred his face. This is sad. They're just like in a concrete room, sleeping on wooden pallets. Oh man, I never thought Uzbeki zoos would be nice, but still. Simba, okay. Oh, the lions are up at him. Oh. Ooh. Ooh, he got bit. Oh, okay. All right. Well, that ended in the most predictable way possible. So, yeah. Jesus Christ. There was some blurry photos at the end there, but like, I can't. Oh my God. They're really blurry, the images, but the top one. Do you guys know Red Skull from the Marvel movies? It's blurry, but it looks like his whole face has been eaten off. He just looks like a red skull, and his body is just in pieces. Fucking hell. All right, let's continue reading. The video cuts off, but the guard is said to have been eaten alive by the lions. The animals, quote, tore the skin off the guard's face. Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. The Russian authorities said. After the deadly attack, the rescuers shot the third lion dead and tranquilized the other two. Quote, the lions killed him and partially consumed his body, according to official statements. It was disclosed that it took about 4 hours for other zoo employees to discover what had remained of the man's body. Authorities checked and secured the enclosures of all the other animals as part of their investigation into the grisly incident. As a result of the... I should do a Russian accent, right? As a result of the measures taken, the lions were returned to a special cage. No other people in the vicinity were harmed. There is currently no danger to the local population. Kind of nailed that, didn't I? The Department of Internal Affairs said in a statement. Fucking hell, I want to watch that again. Just the bit where he gets attacked. Yeah. I don't know if you can hear this very well, but yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, like, hey, man. It's like that saying says, you know that old folk saying? If you go into a lion's cage, don't be surprised if you get mauled to death by them and they eat the skin off your face. Have you heard of that one? Yeah. Anyway, Rhiannon, thank you so much for those two stories, particularly the second one. That's a crazy story, and it was quite horrific audio that we all listened to then. So, yeah, great job. Okay, a couple more stories. A newborn has died after being mauled by a dog west of Edmonton. Okay, let's read about this. Oh, come on. I have to disable my ad blocker. Ah, I hate this. Just let me block your ads. I know you have to make money, but I also have to not read ads. Okay. A 14-year-old... Oh, my Christ. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to kill myself. I turned it off already, guys. All right, I've got another one on. Pause on this site. Okay. I had 2 ad blockers running. That's how much I hate ads. A 14-day-old baby boy has died after being attacked by a dog in west central Alberta early Sunday, Royal Canadian Mounted Police say. The animal attack took place inside a home in the Entwistle area around 7:30 a.m. when ambulance crews and police officers from Evansburg were called to the scene. The infant, who suffered life-threatening bite injuries, was flown to the Stollery Children's Hospital in Edmonton by Stars Air Ambulance. Quote, despite best efforts from medical professionals, the infant has been declared deceased. The police said the dog has been surrendered and officers are continuing to investigate. An RCMP communications officer told the Canadian press that criminal charges are currently not being considered. Constable Julie Ann Striliaf said the dog is scheduled to be examined by a veterinarian on Tuesday. An application could be submitted under Dangerous Dogs Act to have it euthanized. Quote, we need a veterinarian to be able to assist us with being able to ensure there wasn't some underlying cause, she said. Striliaf, I don't know how to pronounce Strillalif, that's a weird name, described the dog as medium-sized but did not confirm a specific breed. She said there were no other children in the home and the dog was a family pet. Obviously, the community is pretty devastated and the family's devastated, she said. It's just a heartbreaking situation for all. Entwistle is about 100 kilometers west of Edmonton. Deaths resulting from dog attacks are rare in Canada, although children are the most common victims. In April 2024, an 11-year-old boy from Oswego, BC, was visiting his father at a home in South Edmonton and died after being severely mauled by 2 large dogs reported to be a cane corsos. A woman in that case was charged with criminal negligence from the death. So, again, really sad, and there's not a lot to add. This is just a classic dog attack. They just do that. This just happens. You got to be careful. Babies and dogs. I think if you have a dog and you have a baby, you have to really consider if you can keep the dog. Like, it has to be a really gentle type of dog. And if there's any sense, like any kind of behavior that, you know, indicates that the dog might have an issue with your baby, like, you're just going to have to get rid of the dog. Bill Burr did a stand-up bit about, he had to get rid of his dog, and he loved that dog. He had to get rid of it because he realized it was a psycho. And yeah, he didn't want to be one of those guys who went up on the news because the dog ate the baby. And this is just what's happened for this person. So, you know, very sad. My thoughts are with that family. But I will admit I'm a little bit numb to this kind of thing because I read about it every single week. Every single week there's at least 3 stories like this, usually in the UK or in the US or Canada. But it happens everywhere and it's very sad. Okay, let's go to India because I've really struggled with pronouncing names this week, so maybe India will make it easier. I'm just kidding, it's way worse. Kerala, wild jumbos kill 3 in 24 hours. Minister calls meet amid outrage. This is in Kochi. With protests raging in the high ranges following the death of 3 people in wild elephant attacks in a span of 24 hours, Forest Minna, A.K. Sasindran, has convened an urgent high-level meeting to explore ways to curb the rising human-wildlife conflict in the area. Head of Forest Force Ganja Singh, Chief Wildlife Warden Pramod G. Krishnan, and other principal chief conservators will deliberate over the prevailing situation at the meeting scheduled to be held at 2:30 p.m. on Wednesday. Sasindran, that's better, said the department will deploy the entire field staff, including social forestry officials, to strengthen patrolling in the conflict hotspots to avoid human casualty. This apart, primary response teams will be formed by recruiting local residents as volunteers to alert people about the presence of wild animals in their area. On Tuesday, residents blockaded roads in Induki and Wayanad districts, demanding protection from wild animals. As many as 11 people have died in wild jumbo attacks in Kerala between December 14th, 2024 and February 11th, 2025, indicating a rise in human-elephant conflict. The body of Babu, who was 54 years old, a resident of Venkola near Paldode in Thiruvananthapuram, was found. That name is too long. It's too long. Was found around 8 kilometers inside the forest on Monday evening. Babu, who had gone to visit his relatives on the other side of the forest, was trampled by a wild elephant. He was missing for 5 days. Manu, a 45-year-old tribal man, was killed by a wild elephant when he was returning after attending a temple festival at Kapad in Nulpazha in Wayanad on Monday night. Both deaths occurred inside the forest. On Monday, Sophia Ismaili of in Indukai was trampled to death by wild elephants when she went to take a bath in a nearby stream. That same day, Prasad, a plantation worker, suffered rib fractures in a wild elephant attack. I'm not even going to attempt to say those place names. Jesus Christ. Apart from, how can that one word have so many Y's in it? That's crazy. Apart from elephants, there have been increases in the incidence of other wild animals, including tigers and leopards, straying into human habitations. So I'm going to not read the rest of this because it's just a recap on something we've talked about before, and also repeating what's just been in that article. 5 people have been killed by a bunch of elephants. And this is a problem in India all the time, and it's because the villagers just encroaching more and more into the forest. So it's unfortunately not a surprise, but there's not a lot that they can do. But they are trying to hold their government a little bit responsible. Someone called me out a while ago saying that my terrible pronunciation of Indian place names was racist, and I'm gonna say, look, I'm not smart enough to know if it is or isn't racist. I'll just say I'm not good at pronouncing really, really long words that I've never seen before in my life. And it would be the same if it was Welsh. I'm just going to say that. If this was in Wales and it was like how many letters does this place have? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That's a 16-letter word I've never seen before. I've never seen those 2 letters next to each other. I don't know what sound that makes. So maybe just give me a break. Okay. Sorry, I'm tired. Last one. This is another dog attack, unfortunately, in Alabama. On the other end of the spectrum, we had a baby before. This time it's an elderly person. A 78-year-old woman has died in Alabama after being attacked by her neighbor's dogs. A 78-year-old Lee County woman died on Tuesday, a day after she was attacked by her neighbor's dogs. The victim had been identified as Patricia Burt, according to WRBL. She died on Tuesday morning at Piedmont Midtown Medical Center in Columbus. Burt is the 3rd person to die from a possible animal attack in Alabama in the first 2 months of 2025. Earlier this month, a 46-year-old woman was fatally mauled by a pack of dogs at a Tuscaloosa County home. The attack happened in the yard and on the property of the dog's owners. The victim had gone to the residence to feed the dogs for the owner, who was out of town. Last week, a 51-year-old man was found dead under his vehicle. Authorities say Stephen Kyle Satterfield was found dead Monday at his property off Highway 278 in Piedmont and had multiple injuries from his hogs. Calhoun County Coroner Pat Brown previously said it's unclear if Satterfield suffered a medical event and then was attacked by the hogs, or if the hogs had caused his death. Lee County Sheriff Jay Jones said the attack happened Monday on Lee Road 356 in Beulah County. Beulah, I think that is, Beulah County. They arrived to find Bert had been injured by 2 dogs and rushed to the hospital where he was later pronounced dead. The preliminary investigation shows that Bert went over to visit her neighbor. The neighbor's 2 Cane Corso dogs were in containment kennels, Jones said, but managed to get out when Bert arrived and attacked her. A Cane Corso is an Italian breed of Mastiff. The dog's owners and Bert's husband tried to stop the attack, but to no avail. It was then, the sheriff said, that Bert's husband shot and killed both dogs. Quote, "It was just a horrible incident," Jones said. The dog's remains were taken to a veterinarian in Oplica for a rabies examination, which is required by state law. Bert will undergo an autopsy by the Alabama Department of Forensic Scientists. Jones said the investigation is ongoing. It doesn't appear there was any criminal intent here, obviously, the sheriff said. Jones said he's learned that deputies had previously been dispatched to the home regarding the dogs. Quote, "We're trying to determine the circumstances of those responses," he said. Once the investigation is complete, the findings will be turned over to the Lee County District Attorney's Office for presentation to a grand jury. So there you go. Okay, 5 stories: 2 dog attacks, a shark attack, elephants attacking a bunch of people in India, and for me, the most interesting story of the week, Uzbekistani man being eaten alive by lions. Crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. All right, that's been our scratch of the day. I hope you had a little good time, and we're going to come back now with a segment that we used to do a lot. We haven't done it for a while, but it's back, baby. I'm talking about beastly bios. That's right, it's the Beastly Bio, or Beastly Biographies, I think we used to call it. This is a segment where we can get deep into the science and biology of animals and talk about them outside of the context of actually attacking people. So today, I thought we'd start this series again with a big predator. We're going to talk about the Sumatran tiger. So the Sumatran tiger, I'm going to go through some of its stats, its information as an apex predator, and, it's the things that make it a man-eater and quite a dangerous threat to humans as well. So, Beastly Biography, Sumatran tiger. Its alias is the striped phantom. The tiger's native range is in Sumatra in India. Its size, well, males can come from 2.2 to 2.5 meters and females from 1.9 to 2.2 meters long. In terms of weight, males can weigh between 100 and 140 kilograms and females between 75 to 110 kilograms. Here's where things get scary. The Sumatran tiger can run at a speed of up to 65 kilometers per hour and has a bite force of 1,000 psi. 100 is not a lot, but 1,000 is. That's enough to crush bones with ease. Another little skill that they have is that they have night vision. Their night vision is 6 times better than humans. The Sumatran tiger is the smallest of all the tiger subspecies, but don't let that size fool you. It's a stealthy, powerful killer, perfectly evolved for dense jungle warfare. Armed with razor-sharp claws and a death-grip bite, this feline assassin stalks its prey in the humid rainforests of Sumatra. Its primary diet includes deer, wild boar, tapir, and even crocodiles. But when the habitat deconstruction pushes them closer to human settlements, livestock, and even people can become fair game. Now, while Sumatran tigers aren't the most infamous man-eaters, they have attacked humans, especially as their territory shrinks. Villagers in Sumatra have reported multiple fatal encounters, particularly in areas where logging has forced these big cats into close contact with humans. Now, unlike the larger Bengal or Siberian tigers, these jungle assassins rely on dense cover, ambushing their prey in deadly pounces. In one harrowing case, a Sumatran tiger known as Suluman, meaning ghost, was blamed for killing 7 people in a single year before being hunted down. Now, we're talking about the man-eater threat level. This is a new thing we're adding in, the threat level towards a human. This man-eater's threat level is extreme, which is the highest that it can go. These animals have documented, though less frequent, attacks on humans than Bengal or Indo-Chinese tigers, but there are several documented fatal attacks on humans. Their stealth factor, they're nearly invisible in dense foliage. Their camouflage renders them pretty much invisible to the human eye. They have a great survival instinct. They're going to attack if cornered or starved. And their conservation status is that they are critically endangered. There's actually less than 400 of these animals left in the wild. As one of the last surviving tiger species in Southeast Asia, the Sumatran tiger is both a biological marvel and a deadly predator, a creature of raw power, unmatched stealth, and an eerie ability to vanish into the jungles after making a kill. So, what do you think, listener? Would you survive an encounter with this striped phantom? I'm going to tell you right now, I would not. I'd be dead. I'd kill myself the second I heard any growling in that jungle. Blam! I've blown my face off. On that happy note, let's end the show. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'll be back next week, hopefully, with a series I've been really looking forward to. We're going to Asia, and we're going to be talking about all the deadly animals in each country in Asia. Asia is quite a large, diverse continent, so it's not all tigers and elephants. There's going to be some other stuff in there too. So join us next week for our deadliest in each country in Asia series. I'm going to come up with a better name than that. As always, there's a bunch of social media stuff you can do. Follow us, blah, blah, blah. All the stuff. Make sure you like this episode or like the podcast wherever you're listening to it, and give us a good review. I don't know if you listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, but review it well. Give me some daps, guys. Please. Don't review it honestly. If you don't like it, I don't care. Just give it a 5-star anyway. It doesn't affect you. And of course the Patreon, patreon.com/managers. You can head there. Also, we've got a website. There's some merch there. You do you. That's going to do it for today, guys. Thank you so much for your time. I love your butts. I love your faces. And I love your nipples. And I will see you in 7 short days. Mwah. 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 Okay, bye.